Welcome back to Law&Crime Network. My name is Bob Bianchi. I'm going to be taking it till 3 p.m. today. We are one day away from the 4th of July, so I'm glad. I hope you guys all have a great holiday. We got a lot on the plate today. Man, I prosecuted a lot of homicide cases in my day. This guy is something else. He is in a class of his own. Anyway, there could not be a better opportunity to talk about what a judge does or doesn't do in this scenario than to bring about my next guest. Perfect segue. Judge William Dawson out of there, Ohio. Wow, Judge, I see you there. Is that at your bench that you're at right now?
Yes, it is.
Oh, man, I love the backdrop. Anyway, he was a previously defense attorney in state and federal courts. He's written a lot of books. I always try to find the interesting thing about my guest, The Legal Matrix, 99 Problems. Funny, Judge, I got about 103 problems, but 99 problems, how your failures, flops, and flaws lead to your greatness. I love it. And also Cycle Breaker about redemption. He does probation programs, educational seminars, and I got to get a kick out of this. You're a guy right up my alley. As soon as I saw this, I'm like, this guy, he's out of the box. You're a certified yoga instructor, and you bring that to your talents on the Zen. You bring that to your practice, if you will, as a judge. And I love the quote I saw on one of your websites and one of your articles, to empower the world. Welcome, Judge.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. It's my honor to be here.
All right. So, you know, I've had a lot of cases where the violent criminals, when I was prosecuting, have gone off in the courtroom, and the judge wants to maintain, obviously, a control there. This guy is very difficult to deal with, to get him to answer a question directly. In fact, I think the prosecutor, you know, is wrestling with him a lot, making it very difficult. I've had that scenario myself. But what goes through your mind as a judge as to what you need to do there, and how far will you go, Judge, before you say, you know what, you forfeited your right to be present during trial?
You know, that's a good question, because there's really a fine line. Because as a judge, I'm thinking about several things at the same time. One, I'm thinking, okay, I don't want to create a situation where this will be an appealable issue if I don't allow the defendant to be heard. So that's one. And the other one is that because the person that is accused of a crime is facing some serious penalties, I want to give the defendant a chance to be heard. But you're right, I have to keep order in the courtroom. So it's very difficult sometimes, because you have to walk that fine line, keeping order and allowing the person to defend themselves, or at least to be heard.
Yeah, excellent analysis, Judge. Couldn't agree with you more. The balancing those very intricate things there, constitutional issues as well, as you aptly pointed out. And now you notice in that, before that clip, before he went and spoke to his attorneys, all of a sudden the sheriff's officers are circling. I felt that defense attorney, I'd like to speak to her, the one that stayed kind of in the middle of that scrum, if you will, or could have been a potential scrum, to say, you'd be really smart to do what the other defense attorney did, is step back, let the sheriff's officers have direct access. In fact, I'm surprised they didn't pull her back. Judge, I'm worried for the safety of these defense attorneys. This guy's walking around with a pencil in his hand, and I think he's looking to go out in a blaze of glory. What do you think?
You know what? I'm starting to get the same impression, because, you know, oftentimes when you're guilty, you know where it's going. You just want to go out, like you said, in a blaze of glory. You want to make a big point. And a lot of times as defense attorneys, they're at risk. When I practice, I felt the same way. In this situation, they probably should make sure he doesn't have any writing utensils or anything like that. And, you know, sometimes you may have to handcuff the defendant to the table to make sure he's not, you know, moving around in a way that can be harmful to people.
Yeah, jurisdictions do it all differently. There's some that have these shock things that they put on them. And I mean, but there's something about this guy. I don't say this lightly. Again, I've been in the courtroom with a lot of murder defendants, a lot of prosecutions of those guys. And, you know, to a point that you made that we always talked about, the true people that are in danger, I think our audience would find this interesting, are the defense lawyers, the people that are there trying to help them. Because the defendant generally looks at the prosecutor, who you would think they wouldn't like because the prosecutor's trying to convict them, as doing their job. But their defense lawyers, they look at like they're dropping the ball, they're only quote unquote public defenders, and the anger usually points in that direction.
All the time. I mean, you always, it seems like you're blaming your attorney. He didn't do what he was supposed to do. She didn't ask the right questions. I mean, you're so close to the attorney in proximity. So you're right. That's the most dangerous position in the courtroom. You know, I had a situation here in Cleveland. I wasn't the judge over this case, but a judge in Cleveland actually put a masking tape over a defendant's mouth one time because they couldn't stop the defendant from the outburst. So you're right when you said that every jurisdiction, every judge handles it differently. But you're right, the safety is a major concern for a defense attorney.
Well, listen, Judge, I got to tell you something. On the Law and Crime Network, we don't only have a great show that we do here, multiple live trials, getting the best crystallized clips of each trial so we can really deliver for our audience, but there's a chat room. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, Judge. There's a chat room in there, and all these true crime buffs and a lot of lawyers are in there, and they're commenting, and BB314 said, wow, on the network, the youngest judge I've ever seen. You must be doing something right, Judge, but BB314 likes you.
It's the yoga.
It's the yoga. He's really 90 years old. It's the yoga that makes look at that. All right, hey, Judge, listen, but there was obviously a reason why he flipped out. And we had that colloquy with the judge, and the judge is trying to control him, and then he has him go out with his lawyers, and then he comes back, and he's like, oh, I was getting too emotional. And that was because there was a prison expert that was on the stand. Let's listen to a little bit of that cross-examination of the expert, which is ultimately what led Scott Nelson to have his problems with the court. Okay, so this is this prison expert that they have up there, the defense called. What you saw there was the prosecutor cross-examining him, and they're talking about his, I guess, days in the jail system. Obviously, he'd been incarcerated for some very serious offenses. Judge, what I find interesting is how the different states go about death penalty litigation differently. And in most states, there's a catch-all on the mitigating factors, which is any other relevant evidence which may move a juror towards a life sentence rather than death. Prosecutors are usually hamstrung by very specific aggravating factors. So when I did death penalty work, I've seen defense attorneys really put on a number of unbelievable witnesses, psychologists, social workers, family history, addiction issues, mental health, even if it wasn't with the defendant directly. And that seems like what they're doing here. So they're really fighting hard for this guy in the penalty phase. But man, oh man, they got one heck of a client, both factually, substantively with the crime itself, and with his attitude in front of this jury. Are you seeing any daylight there that you could get maybe one juror that could say, I'm not voting for the death penalty?
Ways that one, and what happens is the one normally slips through in voir dire when you don't realize you have someone who may be fundamentally against the death penalty. They don't let you know that. But other than that, you're right. His behavior is going to really play a major part. And I don't know if he really understands that. The threatening behavior, the way his body language and all that stuff is going to work against him. Because defense attorneys, as you said, we're going to try everything you can. You're going to bring in every possible witness to show that this person shouldn't be put to death. But if the defendant is not playing along, is not cooperating with that, it's going to make it difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. Judge, excellent analysis. I really enjoy having you on. We're going to take a little break. I'm going to do a little yoga with the judge here, and we'll be back on the other end. Stay with us.